Okay, we have some guests here that I want to introduce to you. We have 3 guests. So no more. Did you guys meet Rebecca? So Becca is my #1 international wing. She has forgotten more about whether or not a Singaporean needs a bank account if they buy a U.S. rental property than she's wanted to. She'll be with me in 5 weeks. We have big events in Hong Kong and Singapore. So Becca's here all weekend. She and Megan work really closely together. I'll have Megan come down here in a little bit as well. I want to introduce you to Brittany. Brittany, how long have you been working with us?
18 months.
18 months. And how long have you been in real estate?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And what were you doing before that?
I was a chemist.
She was a chemist. Now, how many properties have you bought in the last 2.5 years?
For about 1,500.
1,500 houses. So she wasn't in the, now you're interested, aren't you? You're like, 2 years? So, what's your background, math, science-wise?
I have a degree in biochem, I have a degree in biology and a degree in chemistry.
So, brain powers, Wonder Twin powers activate. So, Brittany's very smart. Brittany knows how to do a super secret technique called
Excel.
Excel. Does anybody know how to write a script for Excel? Right? It's you know how to write them. So her script, so it's like a formula that makes Excel do things when you put numbers in. Really amazing. Now, I may or may not have been caught by one of my employees with an Excel spreadsheet on my laptop using an adding machine. That really happened. Why is that so funny?
Because it happened, yeah.
It doesn't say plus, like my adding machine does. It has some other symbol. Sum, yeah.
The sigma.
There's no minus button like my adding machine has. That's confusing.
Funny.
Anyway, so Brittany has a math and science background. She's very analytical. And when Wall Street got in the game, she was one of the analysts for the big funds in Texas. So she bought hundreds of properties in Texas. How many did you buy in Houston?
About 550.
And then in Dallas?
About 300, and then a handful in San Antonio.
So when we met her, this big fund out of Dallas said that they said, hey, we have this, what did they call that software?
A scrambler?
Yeah, they said, we have this software called the Scrambler. And we're thinking about making it into an app, but basically we just feed in a bunch of data. We put 200 properties in there, and then it just tells us like the 30 ones that fit our model. And that's when we make offers. It's amazing because they wanted to partner with our fund. And I said, all right, well, can I see it work? And they're like, oh yeah, come on back here. So they take me back to Brittany's office. And they knew nothing about Excel either, but one of my good techniques to like vet people out is I just play really dumb. And I keep saying, well, let me understand. So what you're saying is I keep making people say the same thing. It's like, what was that? Columbo? Was that this guy? I Columbo things that way. I just come, and so I say, all right, well, can I sit here and watch Brittany use the Scrambler? And like, yeah, she does it. It's her thing. So I sit down, and I realize she has just written a spreadsheet that captures all of the constraints that they had outlined. And then, and as she feeds properties in, then it was Brittany and her spreadsheet. It wasn't some magical software that they wrote to analyze properties. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they have an undervalued asset. And I said, why don't you have Brittany come up to Indiana so we can show her our market? And I just said, do you have a non-compete with them? She's like, nope. Because if you were to work for me, I would pay you per deal. Not a salary like you're getting now. Like I'd pay you $1,500 a deal. How much were they paying you, if you don't mind?
I made like 60 grand a year.
60 grand. And they had her buy 1,000 properties for them. It was their Scrambler. She's Scrambler. That's codename Scrambler. So realizing that I would pay her $1,500 a property, she said, well, how many properties are you buying? I'm like, 500-600 a year.
So I quit my job, I packed my car, and I drove to Indiana.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
And in the last year and a half, you've bought another
500-600.
500-600 props. Okay. See how good partnerships work in business? I didn't want a W-2. I want a partner. I don't care that she does I don't care that she went to auction without my money last week in Dallas. Good. She has diversification and cash flow. I don't care that she's got other projects that she's involved in. Good. Because my acquisitions have never been more on point. Does that make sense? I don't have to preach loyalty. We have a compensation agreement that rewards her for her ability, and I don't begrudge her that money. Does that make sense? You see how wealth mentality permeates everything that you do? Good businesses are always win-win. You never have to have this is what our company believes. We're going to hang this on the wall to remind you and preach loyalty and preach unity. No, you just find somebody and you say, what's the next step for you and how do I get you there? My whole philosophy is help people get to the next step. Whether it's Carolyn getting into a better house, into a better job, or Brittany getting out from under a W-2 oppression, okay? And that's what we do with you. I mean, that's really what Megan is so good at, is because she has this 7-figure customer service skill set and the ability to connect and work with people, she's really good at sitting down with you, helping you figure out where things are and helping you make a game plan. That's what Megan is amazing at. That's what she does with our company and what she's done for years. Tomorrow, Brittany's actually headed back to Dallas right now. So I wanted to introduce you to her because tomorrow I'm going to break down for you how we do our acquisitions, how we do the letters that we send out. Some of you who are in Reno, those are all Brittany's ideas on the letters. Remember those points that I laid out? That was all Brittany. So I'll give that to all of you guys tomorrow. We'll talk about wholesaling because I know some of you are here in the game just for the education and are just kind of getting your arms around all of it. And so I'll talk about some of that tomorrow. Okay, but I wanted to introduce you to her before she takes off. But how many of you are kind of like on the front end of this whole real estate thing? Do you see how quickly things can go? Okay.
Crazy.
And I look back and 17 years ago, I still remember what it felt like as a teacher to pull out my debit card and think, did that clear? If I pay for dinner, will the waiter come back and be like, you know what I mean? I'm still very much connected to that. And I want you to meet people, and I'm going to introduce you to Doug next, who taking action on knowledge is how you move forward. And we're, think of everything we just covered in the past couple of hours. Who's learning new things? Okay? It's powerful because these are the things that I've applied. Years ago we would start the bus tour by going out and looking at properties. Properties without context are meaningless. If I haven't helped educate you on how 7- and 8-figure and 9-figure mindset investors think and act, then it does you no good. They're just deals, and anybody can sell deals. I'm trying to find, think about now, Jean, she's been here 3 times. She's in real estate. She's active. She's in the game. I now have a partner who understands the way that I think and who thinks the way that I think. You see how much more money can be made from these kinds of relationships? Okay? That's how 8- and 9-figure net worth investors do business. Some people think it's like all contracted up. It's not that way, guys. That's not how they do business. That's a myth. Warren Buffett has bought $100 million, $300 million, $600 million companies on a napkin. Sits down with the owner for coffee. They hammer out terms. He writes it on a napkin and then gives it to his lawyers. One of my favorite quotes of all time, J.P. Morgan. Sound familiar? Basically, he saved our country from a bailout, turn of the century. He literally locked he invites all the most powerful money guys in the country to his house, and then he locks them all in a room and says, you guys aren't leaving until we figure out a bailout for the government. That's how it went down, okay? So he's speaking before Congress because he basically saved us from a bailout. And he said a quote I'll never forget. He said, no man can convince me to do business with him if I don't trust him. Because no piece of paper will protect me from him if his intent is to defraud me. And I was raised on a value system that whether it's bound in writing or it's bound with a handshake and eye contact, it's the same. The first teacher who loaned me money after I did my first flip and flipped that duplex and made $50,000 was another teacher at the high school. His name was Dick Bundy. That was his real name. He literally, he literally wrote me out a check for $250,000 on his front porch at his mobile home. I remember feeling scared if I were to lose any of his seed corn, because that was money that he had earned as a teacher and had not earned as an investor. It was all active income that he just saved because he was kind of a hoarder. Okay? And I remember feeling like that was sacred money. And that thinking to myself, if I had to, I would go work. I may not make him any money, but there's no way that I wouldn't give him at least $250,000 back. That makes sense? The whole Ray Dalio, don't lose. And I remember saying to him, well, what kind of contract do you want, Dick? How do you want to do this? He's like, well, I want you to come to my house every month with a check for $2,500, 1% interest. And I want you to look me in the eye and I want you to say, Aaron, I'm only using this money on real estate and nothing else, and I'm not stealing from you. And I want you to shake my hand. I was like, great, because I got no problem doing business that way. That's how I was raised. And we did that. Now, I don't mind contracts. When I did my partnership with my Wall Street fund, I had to get a background check. I get one every 6 months. We had a 50-page contract. We still do. So I'm not afraid of contracts. Some people don't like contracts because it's an opening for fraud. It's not my issue. But I think that when you can operate at a level above contracts with complete transparency, with trust, then Brittany and I don't have a contract. I have access to the scrambler. There are people that would kill for her spreadsheet because she spent 1,000 hours on that spreadsheet.
At least.
I got probably 1,000 copies of it in my laptop. And it would never cross my mind to take that to someone and be like, hey, can you make this into an app? And she could have made me sign a contract saying that I'll never disclose that, or she could sue me. I could have made her sign a contract saying, you can't tell anyone my secret property management secrets, my techniques for managing. I don't care. When Maria came for the internship, did you have access to everything in the company? Our management software, our books, our systems. Was there anything where we said to you in that month, that's proprietary, you have to sign an NDA for it? None of my employees have non-disclosure agreements. None of my employees have non-competes. I don't care. We can build trust. If we can't build trust, then you'll go out and do your thing, but at the end of the day, I'm still betting that I can beat you on execution. Because it's really hard to be an investor and to be a boss and to grow a company and to manage an operation. It's really hard. It's not like stealing the recipe to Mrs. Fields' cookies. Does that make sense? Okay. So it's important to me that you understand my mindset about that and the way that we've built this company. And we're doing tens of millions of dollars in business together without a contract. Does that make sense? So I know you're driving. Was there anything you want to add?
Oh, no. I didn't know I was going to talk.
All right. So thanks for coming, Brett, and drive safe to Dallas. All right, give a round of applause.